All right, let's keep it rolling. Let's keep up with the recaps. Thanks everyone for joining us. If you're just here after the break, we're going to talk about Portland Thorns versus Washington Spirit, and I'm so excited to get your thoughts on this game, Lisa, because this was the game
Match of
that
the weekend.
it kicked it off. This was Friday night after dark. Portland Thorns hosting Washington Spirit. They're the winners in this one, 4-2. We got treated to six delicious goals in this game, and we had a ton of players that we were all keeping an eye on for all sorts of World Cup reasons, but even players we talked about and bringing the preview on here a little bit, players who we were looking at to maybe have some statement moments. We were looking at Ashley Hatch, how she was going to respond in a game like this after the roster being out officially to the public and her not being named to that. How was she going to perform in this game? Well, she had a goal in this game, but so did some others, and we have to absolutely, I think, start with Sophia Smith in this one because what a
Holy
absolutely
cow.
maddening game from this player.
3 goals from Sophia Smith. That brings her league total to 10. She's leading the Golden Boot race by a number, by 2 over Carolin at this point. A hat trick for Soph in this game. She starts off the scoring for Portland Thorns and gets things going early in the 11th minute. And at that point, I was like, wow, it's the 4th straight game for Sophia Smith with a goal for Portland Thorns. She does it with 3-4 defenders around her breaking through. And this is again against a Washington Spirit team, a Washington Spirit defense specifically. You're looking at Sam Staub. You're looking at Tara McKeown, who we've been praising on attacking third. Mark Parsons has been praising. The league has. That's why Washington was number 1 heading into this game at the top of the standings. But I mean, you can't stop Sophia Smith when she goes that hard.
Oh
It
my
was
goodness.
unbelievable to get this opening goal outside of the box, multiple defenders on her. She gets the shot off, and it's past Kingsbury, her U.S. international teammate at that point. However, the response, that's what I mean, there's so many different factors that made this game tremendous. Of course, Sophia Smith, but Ashley Hatch responds 2 minutes later, less than 2 minutes later, equalizing for Washington Spirit. It's Ashley Sanchez who's also very involved in this play. It looks like the ball's going to run over the end line, and Sanchez makes this diving run. She puts her body on the line and just sends the ball back into the mixer right in front of the goal. Ashley Hatch is there and she's able to get on it and find the back of the net. And that's the PO'd attitude we thought we were going to get from Ashley Hatch. And we did, because she gets this equalizer on the assist from Sanchez. And then it just keeps going. It keeps going back and forth from there, where Sophia Smith gets another one before the halftime.
It was end to end, honestly. Look, but it just sort of felt like you saw with how the game got started and just the level of play on both sides of the ball. It just right from the first whistle, we were like, just sort of had this moment. I think where everyone watching collectively were like, this is going to be a very special game. Yeah, shout out to James Miller saying Smith runs through players like they're not even there. Yeah, because we saw them, right? They weren't like phantom ghost players. We saw this on the stream. And Sophia Smith is just like slicing and dicing, not through 1, not through 2, but 3, 4, 5 defenders.
And then she does it again. And then she does it again for her second goal on the night, the 22nd minute. It's her second shot from outside the box. It was an early strike on a breakaway that Smith had where the counter press for Portland was working really well against Washington's shaky backline at this point. And throughout the first half, Sophia probably had like 3 or 4 chances of breakaways, and she finished 2 of them. So 50% out of 4 chances, like that's pretty good considering all opposition has your name on their scouting report and ready to go.
I loved that. I loved her third goal. Of the evening. I know it wasn't like the first 2 we're talking about how they were just like these delicious breakaways. Like we get to witness her her soccer IQ, her quick thought in terms of like, let me just get on this ball, turn these defenders and go. But this sort of lobbed up moment from Hina Sagita into the box she just takes like half a touch before she just like completely puts all of her strength behind a left-footed shot. But it's the response goal, right? Because we're also talking about how it was a little bit back and forth at moments, and we get that response goal from Ashley Hatch that was assisted by Sanchez. And then going into the second half early, here comes the Spirit, and Sanchez gets an equalizer. So this game is level at this point. And Sophia Smith's hat trick ultimately is a game winner, technically. And it's also a response because it's like you have Sanchez's equalizer at 46, and just a couple of minutes later, you have Sophia Smith with the go ahead goal again. And Morgan Weaver puts it on ice. A phenomenal game for Sam Coffey, who provided multiple assists in this game, but just an absolute treat of a game. It was such an excellent NWSL match, sort of kick off week 13. And it just left me wanting more. I was like, God, like they're gonna leave and they're not gonna be around for week 14. Like, geez.
No, I mean, frankly, like this was the best way to kick off the weekend because not only did we get to see 3 from Smith, but I think the Morgan Weaver goal really excites me about a type of player. We're talking about how the World Cup is coming up and players are leaving, and it gives opportunities for other players to step up, of course, but for those that have already been playing consistently, a bit more pressure falls on their shoulders. And I think we look at someone like a Morgan Weaver knowing that she's going to have a bit more pressure on her shoulders to find the back of the net. So she gets one in this match, the 65th minute goal, to take things up even more, another notch for Portland at this point. She sits between the center back. She gets in behind. It's the ball in over the top. I mean, good stuff from Weaver. Good stuff all over the place. Like this was such a fun game. And Washington drops, right? They dropped 3 points. They dropped at the top of the table. We'll talk about it because we're ending June here, but Portland is on a roll.
So we've got Smith, we've got Dunn, we've got Rodman, Kingsbury, Sanchez. Give me
Sullivan.
Sullivan for the Spirit. You got to give me one player that you think is going to come out of this game and say, actually, I can be better.
Oh, that's a good question. I think Rodman. I think there were moments when she was quiet, especially when you look at Sophia Smith, and not that they're comparable in their talents and what they can do, but the fact that they are both dubbed as like the young stars of this team, the young stars of now, right? They are young, but they have experience. And I think Rodman wants to contribute a bit more. And honestly, I bet she finished that game and said, wow, thank goodness Smith is on my side moving forward in these next couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I would say, I think I'm in agreement with you to an extent. I don't know if like maybe it was a little bit of a quiet game. I would say maybe it was like more just kind of an average game. There was just so many players who were having these like kind of out of their minds kind of games, and maybe Rodman and Sullivan had quieter games. So I'm eager to see their response in camps and how they sort of take that energy going into their not just the World Cup, but the upcoming send-off game that they'll have on July 9th against Wales. So fun one for us to talk about. I couldn't wait for us to get to this game and chat about it. I believe we both went Portland in this one as well in terms of picks. So let's see for our next recap if we were correct in our predictions. We had Orlando Pride versus Kansas City Current. 2-1 in favor of the Current. They're walking away with all 3 points. I believe, memory serves correctly, I did go with Orlando on this one.
So we both did. We both went with Orlando. So rough on our parts, but I am happy for Kansas City getting
you did have on record, you're like, look, if there's certain availability for Current here, things are going to change, and that's absolutely what happened here.
That's exactly what happened because Kansas City gets this win, but availability for both sides, right? Marta was back for Orlando Pride, Brazilian international, after she missed the last couple of weeks with hamstring tightness and soreness. But Dabinia is a player that's just cooking and grooving right now. And with Kansas City, Morgan Guttrell, Vanessa DiBernardo in the midfield, this Current side, we got to see throughout this game glimpses of how dangerous they can be and the potential that this team has. I mean, Debinha on fire for Kansas City. They need to get things going quickly, and she does it. I mean, it's DiBernardo that forces this in the midfield. She forces a turnover from Orlando. Debinha picks it up, and it's cheeky. She scores and finds the back of the net. But that's the factor there. It's that DiBernardo is putting the pressure on and forcing this turnover. I mean, 2 assists in this game for Vanessa DiBernardo for Kansas City goals. I mean, I know you've been high on her for years. She spent 10 years in Chicago, a true veteran, one of the free agents that Kansas City picked up in the offseason that we knew was going to be a game changer. But now we're seeing the pieces come together where it's the top 3 big free agents: Debinha, Vanessa DiBernardo, Morgan Gautrat. And I said this in the preview, the more minutes that those 3 get together, the more Kansas City is going to climb the table and just get to the top of it. Because before you know it, it's 2-0. Kansas City's going into the locker room on a CC Kaiser goal after good spells of possession, good moments of counter pressing against Orlando. I mean, Orlando was giving the ball away, and Kansas City was capitalizing on it. Maybe not as much as they could have, but they still did in those moments.
So would you say that this one was maybe a little bit of 2 halves for you, because
Yes.
It was an excellent first half, right, for Kansas City. Outstanding game for Vanessa DiBernardo. I think this is a game that Kansas City current fans can maybe kind of circle and say this is 100% why the Current went out and made sure that they picked up one of their multiple 3 free agents and made sure that they targeted Vanessa DiBernardo. It looks different for DiBernardo when Gautrat is available, and Debinha is also. You have Gautrat who's this calm, collected presence on the ball, can retain possession. You've got DiBernardo who can ultimately kind of be that springboard, essentially, for players, in Debinha or Hamilton or Kaiser, and hopefully we get to see more of that for the Current. Yeah. And if we do, watch out. But the second half here, adjustments, what was said in the locker room, but it's different. They didn't build on it enough for me in the second half.
It's not putting together a 90-minute game, right? And that's what I mean. Like, the more minutes that these players can get together playing consistently, it's only going to help them. And it sounds so trivial to say that. At halftime, Kansas City came out flat, and Orlando used that momentum to kind of ride that wave a little bit that they could. I mean, it's almost like the mental side of it for KC, right? Like, are they getting complacent at this point? Because this is now back-to-back weeks where Kansas City went up 2-0. Now, this time they hold on. Last week, they ended up losing 3-2 to Washington Spirit. They hold on to this one, but they do give Orlando a penalty kick. Kristen Hamilton, she ends up hitting the ball with her arm inside the box. It goes to VAR, of course, and Marta lines up over the spot, burying this penalty kick in the 58th minute. Orlando didn't – it's not like Orlando changed as much from the first half to the second half. Yes, they played better. They connected more passes. I don't think they gave the ball away as much. But Kansas City is the team that their pressure dropped off. And that's what was the difference in the second half. And that's really what they've got to turn around, because with Morgan Gautrat in the lineup, it adds more versatility, especially for someone like DiBernardo, to push higher and to get into the attack. And we see when that happens, she gets 2 assists. She gets shots on goal. She contributes. And I think that's a main reason for this Kansas City win, is that DiBernardo was allowed to be higher with Gautrat sitting in behind her and staying more defensively, knowing that she had that coverage behind her with Gautrat.
Could just be a start, right, of what we're going to witness from Kansas City down the stretch.
Magic.
They're no strangers to putting together strong second half of the season runs. And yes, they will lose Debinha for the foreseeable future. And they're going to have to try to figure out how to manage games depending on how long they may lose her for. Because the break is not the entirety of the World Cup that we keep talking about. There are matches that they have to competing, and they still have a shot for Challenge Cup. They're definitely in contention for that. What are they going to look like in those games, without a player of that caliber? So good for them to close out on a win, I think, before they lose a player like Davinia. But for Orlando Pride,
Mhm.
I'm still kind of looking for them to kind of hit that consistent wave. We've seen them go on a run this season, but they're starting to kind of look a little streaky for me. And I think, again, we're talking about players that they're going to lose. It's not just going to be Martha; it's going to be Adriana as well. It's there's all these little pieces that I know we don't want to look too far ahead. Like, we like to live in the moment, right? But those are all things I know you and I are already thinking about in the look ahead a little bit.